All right, Sagar, what are you looking at?
Well, as anyone who watches this show knows, I care a lot about dress code, much to the chagrin probably of most of you. Now, most of society also is on your side at this point, and often I hear some version of, why do you even care? We have bigger problems to worry about. Or is it somehow elitist to think that dress code should be in place for the most powerful people in America? That's an interesting one. In this monologue, I'm going to try to answer those questions and make a case for why you should care, or at the very least, why you should think a little bit harder about the clear trend away by elites to dress down. The brouhaha all started this week after the news broke that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has instructed the Sergeant of Arms to no longer enforce the dress code on the floor of the United States Senate. The new directive says that business attire for members is no longer required in the chamber, in a nod to Senator John Fetterman and Senator Kyrsten Sinema, who have both repeatedly violated the long-standing policy. The details of the policy hit home to something I have always tried to underscore, that when politicians dress down in an official capacity, they're not trying to relate to you. They think they're better than you. The detail missing from the analysis is that it only applies to senators on the floor. In other words, if you're one of the clerks or one of the aides or a member of the press or a visitor, you will still be required to wear a suit and a tie. Or if you're a woman, you will need closed-toed shoes and you have to cover your shoulders. The elites can wear whatever they want and dress like slobs. The staff must abide by the precedent. So okay, you could say then, well, who cares? Then just let the staff wear whatever they want. Why is the Senate floor so special anyways? To that I have a very simple answer. The Senate floor, the House of Representatives, the Oval Office, they are symbols not of an individual but of representative democracy itself. It is not a boardroom. It is not just a mere corporation. It is, at its best, the place in which the will of the people are supposed to be expressed. The point of dress code on the Capitol or at the White House has always been an enduring idea. Those who serve us must not do so for themselves, but must know the work that they are doing is on our behalf. Now, of course, so much of that already has been stripped away in policy. But shall we take away even the symbol? A symbol endures through time and through history as a matter of seriousness, to understand that when they walk on the floor to make laws on our behalf, it is a form of service rather than one just for their own benefit. Even in a much lesser role, like my job here, the idea still applies. Yes, I have come to enjoy wearing a suit daily. I don't just do it, though, for myself. When I put it on in the morning, I think about the people who watch the show all over the country, who I've met, who say that they feel as if it's a source that speaks to their interests and their needs, that its respectability is one of the things that validates their lives and helps them share the show with other people. In time, I've come to think of it, too, out of respect, that if you give us the grace of your time, which is your most precious resource, it's the very least that I can do for you. You might have seen a recent trend on TikTok where women have been asking men in their lives, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? Apparently, many think of it daily, with most citing their thoughts about the empire as how it relates to the origins of our democratic system and as a cautionary tale for how a Western empire can fall prey to its worst instincts and degenerate over time. Funnily enough, Roman history never was really my bag, which we can still talk about at another time. But apparently, since so many people are interested, here's something to think about. The Senate chamber itself was modeled by the founders off of the Roman Senate. The original Senate, as designed by the founders, did not feature directly elected senators, instead those appointed by state legislatures. The idea was that these representatives with longer-term appointments would not always get caught up in a mob movement and could coolly deliberate whether laws from the House deserved passage. What would you know, though? The Roman Senate was actually governed by a very strict dress code. You may have heard or have seen the Roman toga, but the senatorial toga itself was taken very, very seriously. Roman senators had the right and the duty to wear the latus clavis, a toga with Tyrian purple stripe. The toga had to be worn during all ceremonial activity, with strict fines in place for not attending. Major social backlash within Rome for those who did not hew to this dress code. In fact, Cicero, one of the heroes to the American founders and the ideal of a good senator, actually wrote extensively about how important it was to hew to dress code and would lambast his enemies as un-Roman slobs that did not dress appropriately. Contrary to what many people think, the toga was not the everyday wear of the Roman citizen. In private, they would don tunics or more comfortable clothing, as we all do today. The standards, though, were in place for the senator and other Romans of high standing to mark their civic identity as a Roman citizen. It was the embodiment of the individual and their service to a larger community. And funnily enough, it was right around the time of Emperor Augustus, the founder of the Roman Empire, who succeeded the Roman Republic, that dress standards of senators had fallen apart. So much so, Augustus himself decreed that sloppy dress would no longer be tolerated, that the reclaiming Rome's glory, they must all return to the toga. So there you have it. An example from history itself, of the Senate even. When people start to dress like bums in representative chambers, it is a sign of civilizational decline. Maybe it's not that serious, but maybe they were onto something. That a high standard of dress in the Senate chamber was set to remind people of their duty to their citizens. When you lose symbols, you lose yourself. When you lose yourself, you lose your government, just as the Romans did. So what do you think, Krystal? I somehow was able to get it in there.
Civilizational collapse is at hand because
I'm not the one who made the comparison. It's empirically true. They had bad standards of dress right around the time that the empire collapsed. So obviously it's a one-to-one correlation.
Yeah, correlation does not equal causation.
I'm just bringing in the trend.
Okay. I think your thing is very interesting. Yeah. And I did not know all that about the Roman dress code, so I appreciate learning that history. The part of it that does bother, I don't really care that much, as you know. But the part of it that does bother me is that there's a different standard for the Senate.
That's not
for
right.
Everyone else. That's not right. It's not right.
Yeah.
The other part, I did see someone make a good point on Twitter, which is like, I hate this because now you're gonna have all these people who are like, Harvard-educated fake populists who are like wearing their flannels or whatever to try to pretend like they're the real people. One with the
There's
people,
something to that,
which is irritating because I always hate that. When they go to the Iowa Fair or whatever,
100%.
and you said, I think you put it, they like don their human suits, or you see this in their stupid commercials where they're like in their truck with their dog and their bale of hay, and you're like, you've never done this before or looked like this. And
you're really onto something, because you know what Trump always used to wear at the Iowa State Fair? He wore a suit.
Yeah,
that was it. And you know why? Because that's what he is. He never tried to pretend that he was something other than what he wasn't. Now, look.
But then again, people can really sniff that out too.
Yes.
Like part of how Fetterman gets away, like it feels very genuine that this is just how this man has always dressed. You know?
I 100%. And this is why most people are making this a Fetterman thing. I don't care about John Fetterman. I actually genuinely do think this is something that is core to him. I still think he should have to wear a suit like anybody else who's on the Senate floor. I think there is a deep narcissism to a lot of this, where it's like the idea that my comfort is somehow above the chamber and its history and what it's supposed to represent. Like, symbology does matter to a certain respect. I mean, you and I, like, we take our appearance seriously, and it's not just because we're vain. Sure, look, who's going to deny? Like, there's some part of that. We take our responsibility to our viewers. We know that it is important to them. Now, look, at the end of the day, it's up to the voters to decide. But this is one of those where, and I don't think anybody should ever be voting for this as their number one priority. Let's just make that very, very clear. This is not the number one reason to vote for anybody. Only that I do believe that there is an element here where, as we've watched, like tech billionaires and others, it's like a symbol of like, I've got so much money, I no longer have to care what you mere mortals think.
You know what? I actually think it's less, in a sense, I actually think it's more reflective of the way the public feels about these institutions, which is the public has contempt, understandably so,
they should.
For these institutions.
Right. Why feed into that?
So I see it more as almost like a reflection of like, well, they don't have any respect for these institutions. They don't certainly have any respect for like, the decorum and the civility and the norms, et cetera, et cetera. So why should we at this point? I sort of see these things going hand in glove.
I agree with you, and I think you are correct that this is probably reflective of how they feel about it, but that doesn't mean that we should just give in. I mean, we've had low points before, so we always just give up on the institution. Like, no, we should try and at least do something. I mean, there is an idea about being called to higher service, and, many of these people, Fetterman included, like, he ran for the idea of working on behalf of others. And again, I don't even want to make it about Fetterman, because I actually think Sinema was the original criminal whenever she wore her bossy shirt or whatever, presiding over the chamber.
I hate the way she dresses.
I truly cannot stand that woman on a narcissism level. Remember what she was wearing at the State of the Union? Do you remember that?
It was like some Met Gala thing, right?
Exactly. This is my point. It's like it's all about herself. It's about centering the self above the institution. And my point is that no, you're one of only 100, and that these things have evolved for a reason. So look, this is my attempt to try and make people care about dress code. You can think I'm a nerd, but and everyone's like, oh, you must have worn suits to class. No, you've seen me in casual life. I don't wear suits.
Yeah.
The point is that when you show up to work, and that's all I'm asking. He can wear, and she can wear, any of them can wear whatever they want, as whenever they're not on the Senate. There was one standard of dress for how they should wear while they are there. That's it. And now we've even gotten rid of that. I very much disagree, especially when, we know this. Jillian, my partner, she worked for the Senate. She always had to carry extra shoes and a cardigan and all that stuff because she would staff her boss when she was on the Senate floor. All of her colleagues all have to continue to do the same thing, but the boss can walk in boxers. Like, that's not right. It's like, look, all right, obviously I'm very animated.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed seeing us react to each other's monologues, make sure you subscribe so you can see our reactions to every single piece of commentary.
That's right. Go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber today.